Disclaimer and content note. Before I start this video, I want to say that Barbie and her history is extremely long and complex, so I'm not going to be delving into all of it here. This video is just based on my own personal thoughts and opinions, formed by the research I've done. Secondly, I'd like to include a content note for racism, including anti-black racism, as we're going to be discussing segregation in the US during the 1960s, as well as racism against East Asian people when it comes to talking about antiquated terms like Oriental. So please proceed with caution.
Barbie, you're beautiful. You make me feel my Barbie doll is really real.
So in my junior year of high school, circa 2012, we got to pick our final research paper topic, and I chose Barbie. I chose Barbie because she's always held a soft place in my heart. I played with Barbie dolls for my entire childhood and grew up with a parent who was a Barbie collector. We literally had a glass case full of Barbies displayed in our living room. Imagine that. And because I grew up surrounded by Barbies and all sorts of dolls, I grew to really appreciate them. I made an almost hour-long video on the American Girl dolls. In my paper, I defended Barbie, who is usually the subject of so much criticism and backlash, particularly by other women, by saying that she is everything and nothing at the same time, a blank slate for children to project onto and to imagine with and develop alongside. Essentially, Barbie is anything you want her to be. I was acutely aware of the fact that I was going against the grain somewhat, as my teacher at the time didn't really like dolls or Barbie, so I thought I was pretty edgy, and looking back, I still stand by my thesis. Barbie being a feminist icon is kind of a newish take, especially after decades of second and third wave feminist rhetoric of how Barbie dolls and fashion dolls in general are bad influences on children, especially young girls. So in this video, I'm going to give a brief history of Barbie the doll and talk about the criticisms against her and why some are valid and others aren't, and why in the end her hyperfemininity and the ensuing Barbiecore aesthetic is more radical than some people might think. I'll also be giving my predictions on Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie, which I, like many of you, are super excited for. So strap on your rollerblades, let's go. So when most people think about the history of Barbie, they immediately remark on the fact that she was modeled after a German sex doll. But that's just sensationalism at work. In reality, Ruth Handler had the idea for an adult-bodied doll after watching her kids assign adult roles to their baby dolls. She realized that there might be a gap in the market and suggested to her husband Elliot, who just happened to be the co-founder of Mattel, to make adult-bodied female dolls for kids. He shot down the idea. Then in a 1956 trip to Europe, Ruth encountered Build Lily, an adult-bodied female fashion doll for adults. The Lily doll was actually Reinhard Botien's adult cartoon creation from 1952, who became so popular she warranted a toy. The Lily doll was first sold in Germany in 1955, and although it was initially sold to adults, it became popular with children who enjoyed dressing her up in outfits that were available separately. Ruth, alongside Jack Ryan and Charlotte Johnson, redesigned Lily into Barbie, named after Ruth's daughter Barbara. The first Barbie doll wore a black and white zebra-striped swimsuit and signature top-knot ponytail, and was available as either a blonde or brunette. The doll was marketed as a teenage fashion model, with her clothes created by Mattel's fashion designer Charlotte Johnson. The first Barbie dolls were manufactured in Japan, with their clothes hand-stitched by Japanese homeworkers. Around 350,000 Barbie dolls were sold during their first year of production. Of course, Mattel later landed in legal trouble due to modeling Barbie after an existing doll. Louis Marx and Company sued Mattel in March of 1961. After licensing Lily, they claimed that Mattel had infringed on Greiner and Hauser's patent for Build Lily's hip joint, and also claimed that Barbie was a direct takeoff and copy of Build Lily. The company additionally claimed that Mattel falsely and misleadingly represented itself as having originated the design. Mattel counterclaimed, and the case was settled out of court in 1963. In 1964, Mattel bought Greiner and Hauser's copyright and patents rights for Build Lily for $21,600. Ruth and Elliot would later be removed from their posts at Mattel in 1974 for fudging financial reports. And before I go on, I should note that there was a Chrissy doll, the first American fashion doll who was released by the Alexander Doll Company in 1955. Chrissy sported a pronounced bosom and high-heeled shoes, so Barbie wasn't necessarily the only adult-bodied fashion doll in the US at the time. The last alteration Ruth made to her own creation was in 1971, 3 years before the lawsuit, when Barbie's sideways glance was changed to look forward. So yes, in the end, Barbie was based on a sexual character, but that doesn't automatically make the toy sexual. Ruth Handler believed that it was important for Barbie to have an adult appearance, but early market research showed that some parents weren't happy about the doll's chest, which had distinct breasts. Cue the, oh no, think of the children Simpsons gif. Just because she has noticeable secondary sex characteristics meant that she was too obscene to be a children's toy, as if children don't see adult women every day. The shaming around Barbie's body seems ridiculous to us now, or at least should, but it sadly ironically mimics how real women were and continue to be shamed every day for just existing, for just having hips, curves, and breasts. Ironically, the same things the patriarchy tells us are desirable to have are the same parts we need to cover up and not learn about. There really is no winning for women. Even if you're just a replica of a woman, you're subjected to the same BS. It was also revolutionary at the time to give young girls a doll that wasn't a baby to be taken care of, but a friend, a manifestation of themselves. Barbie let girls explore their own identities outside of being a mom to a baby doll. Letting girls buy her and dress her up was a way to exert some power over who they were as people. Though it doesn't sound the most radical, it reminds me a lot of Broe Deschanel's video about Sex and the City, where she analyzes the A Woman's Right to Shoes episode, where Carrie is criticized for spending an enormous amount of money on shoes. The episode's thesis is that when women spend money on themselves, it's a radical act because women aren't supposed to have the financial power to fulfill their own desires. And if they do have money, they're supposed to be putting it towards their home and children. Barbie to me is kind of like that. Because we live under capitalism, Barbie and her accessories, though seemingly vapid, actually are quite revolutionary and liberating in a sense. Because girls and women are so policed in learning about our own bodies and exerting our own autonomy, through Barbie we can sort of gain some of that power back. And even though Barbie was heavily moralized and seen as inappropriate, she endured nonetheless and became the blueprint for the future of fashion dolls. A notable Barbie fact is that the toy campaign was one of the first ones to be driven by TV ads, which would become the principal way to market to kids in the future. In 2006, it was estimated that 1 billion Barbies were sold worldwide, and Mattel, that same year, claimed that 3 Barbies were sold every second. In addition, Barbie has a web series and many movies and books that I will not be delving into here, but there's plenty of them if you want to read and watch them. And Mattel has also given Barbie a full backstory, which yes, includes Ken. Barbie's full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. In a series of novels published by Random House in the 60s, her parents' names are given as George and Margaret Roberts from the fictional town of Willows, Wisconsin. In those books, she attended Willows High School, but in the Generational Girl books published by Golden Books in 1999, she attended the fictional Manhattan International High School in New York City, based on the real-life Stuyvesant High School. Mattel has also put Barbie and Ken through a very intense on and off again relationship. Ken first appeared in 1961 and his full name is Kenneth Carson, and the two were dating. In the Barbie game, Queen of the Prom, that came out in 1960, Ken has a few classmates named Bob, Tom, and of course Poindexter. In 2004, Mattel announced that Barbie and Ken had decided to split up, but in February of 2006, they were hoping to rekindle their relationship after Ken had a makeover. In 2011, Mattel launched a campaign for Ken to win Barbie's affections back. The pair officially reunited on Valentine's Day 2011. At the release of Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures in 2018, the pair are just seen as friends or next-door neighbors. Mattel also created friends and relatives for Barbie, including 3 younger sisters, Skipper, Stacy, and Chelsea, who was named Kelly until 2011. Retired members of Barbie's family include Todd, twin brother to Stacy, Chrissy, a baby sister, and Francie, Barbie's cousin. According to Wikipedia, Barbie's friends include Hispanic Teresa, Midge, African-American Christy, and Steven, Christy's boyfriend. There's also Kira, an Asian American Barbie, and Miko, who was a Pacific Islander. However, they have both been discontinued, and now Leah is Barbie's friend of Asian descent. Leah was first introduced in 2000 as a successor to Kira. She had an active role in the Barbie line from 2000 to around 2006, when she was phased out, leaving the line without a character of Asian descent. She was reintroduced in the line in 2014. And on that note, let's talk about Barbie and race. So Barbie was developed in a segregated US. When she first launched, she was only available in blonde and brunette, and her skin color was obviously white. And for that reason, Barbie has been an icon for white womanhood and white femininity since her inception. And Mattel, being a corporation and only caring about the bottom line, wasn't necessarily interested in breaking the color line. Mattel was even afraid of losing their core audience by introducing a black doll with black features and dark skin. So instead they created Colored Francie, a test doll, and surprisingly or unsurprisingly enough, she was a huge hit. It should be noted, however, that Francie did not have typical African American features, since it was made with the same head molds as the white Francie doll. Since then, Francie has made comebacks in various eras with darker skin and black features. The first black Barbie people usually remember is Christy, who was first issued in 1968. That same year, in 1968, Mattel helped finance the Shindana Toy Company, founded by Louis S. Smith II and Robert Hall, which was formed in the wake of the Watts riots as part of Operation Bootstrap. The Watts riots, sometimes referred to as the Watts Rebellion or Watts Uprising, took place in the Watts neighborhood and its surrounding areas of LA from August 11th to the 16th of 1965. On August 11, 1965, Marquette Fry, a 21-year-old African-American man, was pulled over for drunken driving. After he failed a sobriety test, officers attempted to arrest him. Marquette resisted arrest, and with assistance from his mother, Raina Fry, a physical confrontation ensued in which Marquette was struck in the face with a baton. Smith and Hall were inspired to create Shindana after witnessing the powerful experiment from the 1940 psychologist Kenneth and Mamie Clark. They had presented 253 black children aged between 3 and 7 with both black and white dolls, and the preference for lighter-skinned dolls provided shocking early evidence of internalized racism. Shindana, according to co-founder and activist Lou Smith, would make toys reflecting real black people aimed to help the community move from self-hatred to self-love, he told the New York Times. Mattel gave them everything to work with. Miss Beulah May Mitchell, who was on the first Barbie production line at Mattel before becoming one of the first black employees at Mattel's corporate offices, said, "They sent people from our company over there to show them how to make black dolls." Smith and Hall conceived Shindana toys with no existing knowledge of the toy business and few funds. Enter Mattel, the giant corporation, provided factory training, supplies, industry contacts, and capital with no strings attached stipulation, per Smith and Hall's request. Shindana provided much needed jobs for the impoverished Watts community and created black toys, games, and dolls for children. Unfortunately, Shindana Toys went defunct in 1983, but helped create black toys for black children, notably Baby Nancy. Mattel, a multi-billion-dollar white-founded corporation, is still going strong. There are, of course, small black businesses making dolls for girls, like Her Story Dolls, founded by CEO Queen C. The dolls serve as a reflection of diversity within kids of African descent, with different brown skin tones, more facial features, and textured hair of different types. So go support smaller-owned toy shops if you can, but still the most accessible and now diverse dolls on the market are owned by big corporations who can keep prices low, output high, and market globally. Black Barbie, who's Barbie but black, was launched in 1980, though she still had white features. According to Wikipedia, in 1990, Mattel created a focus group with African-American children and parents, early childhood specialists, and a clinical psychologist, Darlene Powell Hudson. Instead of using the same molds for the Caucasian Barbies, new ones were created. In addition, facial features, skin tones, hair texture, and names were all altered. The body shapes looked different, but the proportions were the same to ensure clothing and accessories were interchangeable. It should be noted that in the 1960s, Mattel, a white corporation, went to give their so-called doll expertise to a black-owned toy company when they couldn't even make a black Barbie right until 1990. Teresa, Barbie's Hispanic friend, was introduced in 1988. Kira, an Asian American Barbie, was introduced in the 2000s, and Miko, who was a Pacific Islander, was actually introduced in 1985. However, like I said, they have been discontinued, and now Leah is Barbie's friend of Asian descent. Before Mattel's diversity revamp in 2016, there was the Barbie Dolls of the World line, which includes 91 dolls from all continents. The collection started in 1980 and ended in 2014. There are also anniversary editions of these dolls that are given different outfits, and these are more for collectors than kids, though their boxes do try to teach some facts about their culture. For example, the Oriental Barbie doll was released in 1981. She is part of the Dolls of the World collection and is notable for being the first Asian doll in the Barbie brand, making her historically important. She also introduced the Oriental face sculpt, which later became the official face mold for Barbie's Asian friends, Miko and Kira, so the sculpt is usually referred to by all three names. On the box it says, "I am from Hong Kong, an island off mainland China. It is in the Orient or Far East, which includes countries such as Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, and Malaysia. Throughout the Orient, people shop at outdoor marketplaces where goods such as fish, vegetables, silk, and spices are openly displayed. In this part of the world, we eat rice with our meals rather than bread or potatoes. We use chopsticks for eating instead of knives and forks. In the Orient, there are many temples which are called pagodas. You will recognize them by the way their roofs turn up at the corners. Kind of like our eyes." Our harbor in Hong Kong is full of big Chinese fishing boats called junks. On land, you can travel through the streets in a rickshaw cart with two wheels pulled by a rickshaw boy. You will notice that many of the women in Hong Kong wear cheongsams, dresses like I am wearing. Chinese is a picture language. Each ideograph or symbol has a meaning. Below are some examples for you to try. Come visit the Orient. I know you will find it exotic and interesting.
Oh, would you like me to park your car?
So there's that. In May 1997, Mattel introduced the Share a Smile Becky doll in a pink wheelchair. Kajersti Johnson, a 17-year-old high school student in Tacoma, Washington with cerebral palsy, pointed out how the doll would not fit into the elevator of Barbie's $100 dream house. Mattel announced that it would redesign the house in the future to accommodate the doll. But now, of course, Mattel and Barbie are all about diversity. Why? Because it's profitable. Mattel was always diverse in that they pandered to white US collectors with their exotic ethnic dolls, but now they're realizing that the LGBTQ plus community and people of color have money too, so they're finally catering to them. Which is really sad considering these minority communities have been Barbie fans for as long as the brand has been around, but have had to wait decades to finally be seen. But I guess it's better late than never, right? I will say that though it's awesome that you can get dolls that represent you, I think Barbie has lost a lot of its competitive edge as a fashion doll. Monster High, Bratz, and even My Scene were able to better keep up with the times by being more stylistic and already including diversity. And though you could blame that on the era Barbie was founded, it took them until 2015 and 2016 to do a total 180 when it came to a lot of the design elements, like more flexible feet, body shapes, and more that we'll get into in the next section. Barbie, compared to Bratz and Monster High, look boring, and it's just so obvious to me how long they took to get with the program. However, I don't think that diminishes the brand's importance, and they should continue to be diverse, because even though Barbie doesn't have a fantastical element to it, that's also what makes her special. Not only being able to see a realistic or aspirational representation of you, but also being grounded and being that blank slate of not having a predetermined story, of getting to dress up and try out different things. That's important. So when Barbie first came out, she was hated by conservatives because she was too sexual for simply having breasts. But she was also hated by feminists who saw her as a manifestation of everything wrong with the patriarchy at the time. She had an impossible figure, she cares too much about fashion and shopping, she's too pink, she just cares about boys and prom, etc., etc. And I think it's fair for women to be wary of Barbie because when she first debuted, she seemed to just uphold traditional gender norms. She was stereotypically feminine, and feminists at the time railed against that because that's the box they were being pushed into. And girls and women are so much more than their bodies, the clothes they wear, etc. In addition, playing with dolls is sometimes looked down upon in feminist spaces because dolls themselves are seen as girly. Female empowerment to second and third wave feminists was behaving and acting like men, and boys and men aren't socialized to play with dolls. I grew up around this rhetoric that girls who play with dolls are weak and have internalized the patriarchy. I had moms of friends who bragged about how their daughters didn't play with dolls and who said, actually, dolls are pretty creepy when you think about it. I'm glad I never internalized this and actually never really got that take. I always loved my dolls, no matter what kind of doll they were, and it was fun to create scenarios and imagine their lives. In the new Greta Gerwig Barbie trailer, there's a reason why the text says, if you love Barbie, this movie is for you, and if you hate Barbie, this movie is for you. Barbie is very polarizing among women. As time went on, Barbie also evolved. Barbie has tons of different careers. She's not just a teen or young adult fashionista. She's a CEO. She's an astronaut, teacher, a doctor, a mermaid, a fairy, a princess. Whatever you want her to be, they sell one of her. And this is more true nowadays than at the time of her conception, when criticism of Barbie's character and what she supposedly was teaching girls was more narrow in scope. So critiques lobbed at Barbie for not being empowering enough or for being too girly didn't come from nowhere, neither did the fact that she tended to just look one way and have one body type. But to blame all of the problems women face on Barbie is like blaming violence in the real world on violent video games. People want an easy answer to hard problems, but sadly, you're not going to solve patriarchal oppression by getting rid of a female-invented fashion doll. I'm not saying that these criticisms aren't valid or weren't valid at the time, but rather that Barbie is only a piece of the larger puzzle, and that she sometimes gets unfair criticism when in reality she's a product of a multi-billion-dollar corporation whose main goal is to make money, so try to lower your expectations of her radicality. Simultaneously, she is made by a large corporation, so those at the top should be criticized on what they're selling to children, and I think overall Mattel has taken that to heart. In today's market, you can browse pages and pages of different types of Barbies with different hair textures, skin colors, body types, and articulation. There's even Barbies of Ida B. Wells and Anna May Wong in their Inspiring Women series. In 2016, Ibtihaj Muhammad's doll became the first Barbie to wear a hijab. In 2017, Barbie came out in support of marriage equality, and in 2022, Barbie released their first trans doll, an homage to Laverne Cox. It seems as though post-2016, when Barbie started to actually diversify its lineup with Barbies of different heights and body proportions, as well as change their permanent high-heel feet in 2015 to make their ankles more flexible, that they could finally begin to live up to this idea that they themselves created, that Barbie is whoever you want her to be. She's not just white, she's not just thin, and she doesn't just care about fashion, though is that last point really that bad? Barbie has been the bane of a lot of feminist existence for a while, but honestly I think nowadays women can finally just like Barbie unabashedly. At least that's what Gerwig's movie is trying to do. Barbie, though never perfect, can be empowering in a world where women are constantly pressured to push away their girlier sides in order to be taken seriously. Embracing pink fashion and girliness is okay, and doesn't mean you've internalized the patriarchy or are vapid and selfish. And though it is nice that we can love and defend Barbie with our whole hearts, I do think that we should remember that reclaiming pink and traditional femininity has its limits. For example, women who aren't stereotypically feminine still have a really hard time, even though they should be celebrated for turning away from the frivolity of the feminine and for embracing masculinity. They're punished for deviating from the expected norm, and that shouldn't be forgotten. In addition, Barbie is still white by default, and all the other Barbies of color are just variants of her. That's actually the entire basis of a joke from The Office where Toby thinks Daryl is going to give him a white princess unicorn, but she's black princess unicorn. If we're going to have Hispanic, black, and Asian Barbie, Barbie should be called White Barbie. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I also think that though there are variations of Barbie and that Barbie isn't taken seriously by white conservatives because of her heightened femininity and liberal-leaning politics, she still does represent white womanhood and whiteness. White Barbie, at least her physicality, is still the ideal woman that's lorded over all women as the perfect version of them and what they should aspire to be. No matter how many other Barbies exist, Barbie's form will always be ubiquitous with whiteness and the power that has. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as Barbie and Ken are basically poster children for the white race. And Barbie is used by conservatives as both the source of their scorn that girls shouldn't play with them because they're too sexual or that boys shouldn't play with them because that's quote-unquote gay, but Barbie also represents for them their idealization of beauty as this white representation of the perfect woman. So Barbie is in dangerous waters of being claimed by the right, but I think the company is sentient of how Barbie is seen as the quintessential white woman and are now actively trying to combat that with their line of diverse dolls with left-leaning politics. I also think Gerwig is looking to combat that too with her new movie and its campiness and orange spray tans, but only time will tell. I do think that it's telling that Gerwig used the 1975 to 1991 3D logo for the movie rather than the original, due to the fact that that's when Barbie started to diversify their lineup. Also, I'm sure it's nostalgic for Gerwig herself, who grew up with Barbie during that logo's era. In an interview with Gerwig, she also stated that she's putting Barbie before Ken because that's how they were created. That's why a lot of marketing is she's Barbie and he's just Ken, because Barbie, unlike the biblical creation myth, was made first, before her male counterpart. And that in and of itself is such an interesting parallel that makes me 100 times more hyped to see the movie than I already am. Nowadays, Barbie has found a new life with not just the revamp of the company and Gerwig's much-awaited movie, but in Barbiecore, which came out in tandem with the excitement for the movie. Barbiecore consists of pink statement pieces in a variety of silhouettes, from flowy chiffon to structured leather. As long as it's pink on pink on pink, it's Barbie. Not to mention the use of accessories from cowboy boots to cat eye sunglasses to fuzzy scrunchies. The look makes callbacks to 90s and early 2000s fashions, which is an already popular aesthetic, to also older fashion trends, specifically from the 50s and early 60s when Barbie first debuted. In addition, it takes nods from Margot Robbie's looks in teaser images and trailers of the upcoming film. Viva Magenta was also this year's color of the year, which perfectly coincides with Barbiecore and why we're seeing so much pink. And of course, anyone can participate in Barbiecore, not just thin, white, cis-het women. And honestly, I'm here for it. I'm so glad we can live in an era where liking Barbie and pink and being girly is seen as a good thing, because for so long, girly girls were treated as the enemies, as shallow, as mean, as dumb. To us, not like other girls who look down in scorn at our peers for sporting their fuchsia Juicy Couture sweatsuits. But let's also be real, sometimes those girlier girls were actually really mean. At least in my own experience, the girls who tended to go all out with the pink were also thin, rich, and white, and bullied the girls that weren't those things. They policed femininity and beauty among their peers. So it's important to remember that we didn't create identities outside of the girly girl for no reason. It was a response to real-world experiences. But also, girls just have different interests from one another, and not everything we do is reacting to the patriarchy. Girls express themselves in different ways, but weaponizing pink and hyperfemininity against other women is very real and very bad. So like I said earlier, there's a line when reclaiming pink and femininity, but when it comes to just modern day Barbiecore and people dressing how they want to dress, I'm for it. Just don't be a Karen. But I don't think that simply embracing pink and the Barbie aesthetic automatically makes you a mean girl, but rather that's patriarchal movie shorthand. Equating girly girls to Barbie only happens because that's how men as well as women are socialized to see girls like Barbie. And then some women feel the need to join in because A, they want men's approval, or B, they've been made fun of by other women for not being girly and are genuinely hurt. It's all really complicated. And in reality, the ideals Barbie pushes is to be kind and charitable and fun and creative, but of course people don't know that because just like women in the real world, men and even some women don't take her seriously. They can't see beyond the pink and the clothes to actually get to know who she is. In the end, we need to keep this in mind. Girls in the real world can be mean to each other and can be mean and are mean no matter how they present, but also that girls aren't taken seriously when they present as too feminine, which is why Barbie is radical and important. Both can be true and that's okay. Barbie, much like Elle Woods, deserves to be respected for who she is and how she presents without having to change herself to fit into men's expectations of how a woman should be and present. To conclude, Barbie is a very complicated topic to delve into for something that's just a kid's toy. But honestly, what we give our kids and say to our kids really reflects on what we as a society have agreed on what is okay and not okay. Barbie started off as controversial for simply not being a sexless baby doll, for being a woman, kind of like how women are treated in our actual society. I, for one, am relieved that we got over that hang-up and created more and more fashion dolls for girls and all kids to express themselves with. Dolls that weren't just things to be taken care of, but to imagine with and grow alongside. And Barbie as a company has grown a lot when it comes to gender, body type, racial, and disability inclusion, but of course it still has a long way to go. Barbie is always progressing, and I think that does at least show Though we should remember that Mattel as a corporation has a pretty large monopoly on dolls that make it harder for smaller manufacturers to make their mark. I wonder if that will be a theme in Gerwig's adaptation. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Barbie down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.